All right, if you've been keeping an eye on the markets, you've definitely seen it. Silver, after just years of going sideways, has absolutely exploded. It's the kind of move that gets everyone talking, right? But what's really, truly driving this silver surge? So, was this just a flash in the pan? A random spike that was all hype? Or are we actually witnessing a fundamental shift in how this metal is valued? To really figure that out, we've got to look at what was happening before the price took off. You see, for a long, long time, the silver market was like a coiled spring. There was just this immense pressure building up right beneath the surface. It wasn't just quiet, it was getting compressed, totally setting the stage for a powerful, powerful release. Okay, so one of the most reliable long-term signals we have for silver is something called the gold-silver ratio. Just think of it like this. How many ounces of silver does it take to buy 1 single ounce of gold? Well, that ratio had stretched over 90 to 1. I mean, that's just incredibly cheap for silver compared to gold. And historically, when that happens, one of two things tends to follow. Either gold prices fall, or silver prices just explode upward to close that gap. The whole mood in the market was summed up perfectly by this idea that sellers are exhausted. Weak hands already exited. Think about it. After years of going nowhere, anyone who was impatient had already sold and moved on. So all that was left were the strong holders, which created this vacuum, this air pocket, where any new buying pressure could send the price absolutely rocketing up with very, very little resistance. So with that spring coiled so tightly, what was the trigger? What finally set it off? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was a perfect storm of factors that all collided to finally unleash the price. First up, we saw this classic pattern play out. See, silver almost never leads the dance. Gold always moves first, and it did, pushing to new highs. And for a moment, silver just sat there, lagging behind. But that kind of divergence, it never lasts long. And what we just saw was step 3. Silver slamming on the accelerator to play a really violent game of catch-up. And this move, it wasn't just some temporary spike. No, this was a fundamental break. The price smashed right through a ceiling that had held it down for years. And the moment that happened, boom, automated trading algorithms, momentum investors, they all piled in, adding rocket fuel to the fire and completely changing the market psychology. Another huge source of tension was this disconnect between paper and physical silver. In the paper market, you have these massive volumes of silver contracts trading every single day. But in the physical world, the supply of actual tangible metal was getting really tight. And when demand for the real stuff outstrips a limited supply, well, the paper price is forced to adjust. And that adjustment, it's often sudden, not gradual. But let's zoom out. Beyond all the short-term market action, there's an even bigger story unfolding here. And that's the relentless, non-negotiable industrial demand that forms silver's true backbone. This is what makes silver so incredibly unique. It has this dual identity. When investors are fearful, what we call a risk-off environment, they buy it as a monetary metal, a safe haven. But when the economy is booming, a risk-on environment, it's in super high demand as a critical industrial component. There are very, very few assets on the planet that get this powerful dual boost. And that industrial demand? Oh, it's not optional. Silver is absolutely essential for the technologies that are defining our future. We're talking solar panels, EVs, semiconductors, and the entire infrastructure for 5G and AI. This demand is what economists call price-inelastic, which is just a fancy way of saying these industries have to buy silver no matter what the cost.
Just take the auto industry, for example. Right now, traditional gas-powered cars account for most of the silver demand. But watch the shift. By 2027, EVs are set to become the primary consumer of silver in the entire sector. And by 2031, they'll represent nearly 60% of the demand. That's not a small change. That is a massive structural change.
And it's not just EVs. Get a load of this number. This represents the projected growth in silver demand just from the 5G rollout alone by 2030, a staggering 206% increase. You see, this isn't cyclical hype. It's a structural deficit where demand is on track to outpace supply for years to come. So you might be wondering, why is this demand so locked in? I mean, why can't these huge industries just find a cheaper substitute? Well, as it turns out, replacing silver is far, far from simple, and that is key to understanding its future. It's really easy to look at silver like this, right? as a store of wealth, a precious metal. But we have to reframe that. We need to think of it as a high-performance strategic material. Its value comes not just from being rare, but from its unique and, well, often irreplaceable physical properties. So check this out. Silver has the highest electrical and thermal conductivity of any metal on the entire planet. It can be formed into these incredibly fine lines and pastes, which is critical for solar panels and electronics. If you try to substitute it with something cheaper, like copper, you often end up sacrificing efficiency, generating more heat, or losing reliability. The trade-offs are just too big. For the engineers working in these high-tech fields, the choice isn't about finding the perfect material. It's about balancing countless trade-offs. And that leads to this really powerful conclusion. In many systems, silver isn't just the best choice. It is the least bad compromise available. So we're left with this final question. You have a metal with literally thousands of years of history as money, which gives it that safe haven appeal. And at the exact same time, its future demand is completely locked into the most important technological revolutions of our time. So in a world filled with both uncertainty and innovation, could this unique dual identity be silver's ultimate unbeatable advantage?